The world of geopolitics is constantly shaped by unexpected developments. Yet even within this constantly shifting landscape, some events stand out, not just for their boldness, but for the creativity and sheer defiance they represent. In West Africa, under the leadership of Captain Ibrahim Traoré, Burkina Faso has become the epicenter of a political, social, and economic reawakening that has captured the imagination of millions across the continent. But in his latest move, Traoré has once again stunned the world and shocked his critics by unveiling a groundbreaking infrastructure initiative, the construction of a road using recycled tires. What may seem to some as an unconventional idea has in reality signaled the dawn of a new era of African ingenuity, sustainability, and defiance against traditional global expectations. Even leaders like Donald Trump, who prides himself on predicting and controlling economic trends, did not see this coming. Burkina Faso, a landlocked nation long dismissed as resource-poor and geopolitically insignificant, is rewriting its own destiny. For decades, Western narratives painted it as one of the least developed countries in the world, perpetually reliant on aid, loans, and foreign intervention. However, under Traoré's leadership, the nation has taken bold steps to reassert control over its resources, its policies, and above all, its future. The construction of a road using old tires might sound symbolic, but it carries profound political, economic, and environmental implications. It represents resistance to dependency on foreign powers, the embrace of innovative sustainability, and a determination to chart a path uniquely African in design and vision. To fully grasp the significance of this move, one must understand the broader context. Roads are more than infrastructure. They are the veins of development, the channels through which trade flows, people connect, and nations integrate. In Africa, where many regions remain disconnected by poor infrastructure, roads are political statements as much as they are physical projects. Building them represents progress, independence, and empowerment. For a country like Burkina Faso, which has been starved of such development due to decades of exploitation and interference, a road project becomes a symbol of resilience. And when that road is made out of recycled tires, the symbolism becomes even more layered. First, there is the environmental dimension. Africa, like much of the world, faces mounting challenges of waste management and environmental degradation. Old tires are one of the most stubborn forms of waste, filling landfills and polluting landscapes for decades without decomposing. By finding a way to recycle these tires into durable infrastructure, Traoré is tackling two crises at once: waste management and infrastructure development. He is not only creating a solution that is cost-effective and resourceful, but also aligning Burkina Faso with global conversations on climate change and sustainability. In doing so, the country positions itself not as a victim of climate challenges, but as a contributor of solutions. Second, there is the economic dimension. Traditional road construction requires enormous financial investment, often financed by loans from international institutions such as the IMF or World Bank. These loans are typically laden with conditions, trapping nations in cycles of debt that undermine their sovereignty. By opting for alternative methods, such as recycled tires, Burkina Faso significantly lowers costs, avoids foreign debt entanglements, and channels resources toward local innovation. In essence, it rejects the global financial trap and instead reinvests in domestic solutions. For leaders like Donald Trump, who once viewed Africa primarily as a market for Western companies and a pawn in the geopolitical chessboard, such ingenuity undermines long-standing assumptions about African dependency. Third, there's the political symbolism. Traoré has consistently framed his policies as a rejection of neo-colonial dominance. The recycled tire road project is more than just a clever use of materials. It is a bold declaration that Burkina Faso will solve its problems in its own way. By building something unexpected, practical, and independent of Western models, Traoré forces global powers to acknowledge Africa's ability to innovate on its own terms. This sends ripples not just across Africa, but but also in Western capitals where policymakers remain invested in maintaining influence over the continent. One must also recognize the cultural resonance of such a project. In African societies, creativity and resourcefulness have always been part of daily life. From rural communities that construct homes using local clay and straw to urban youth who repurpose scrap metal into motorbikes, resourcefulness is ingrained in the African spirit. Traoré's Road on Tires takes this culture of ingenuity and scales it up to a national project. It is an affirmation of African identity, one that says Africa does not need to wait for Western blueprints, but can rely on its own innovation. Critics, of course, have attempted to belittle the initiative. Some argue that roads made of tires may not be as durable as conventional asphalt roads. Others dismiss it as a publicity stunt designed to attract international attention. Yet such critiques miss the larger point. The project is not merely about a road, it is about what that road represents. Even if the technology evolves, even if improvements are needed, the message is clear. Burkina Faso is no longer waiting for permission or aid. It is acting boldly, and it is experimenting with solutions that are uniquely tailored to its context. That courage in itself is transformative. The timing of the project is equally significant. Africa today is at a crossroads. Global powers are competing fiercely for influence over the continent, whether through military presence, trade agreements, or digital currency strategies. In this environment, every move by African leaders is scrutinized as part of a larger geopolitical puzzle. For Traoré to announce such a project at this moment, when Western influence is being increasingly questioned and local populations are demanding self-reliance, is strategic. It not only inspires pride among Burkina citizens, but also sends a signal to other African nations that innovation need not follow Western templates. Trump's name enters the conversation because of the broader global context. As a figure who built much of his persona on deal-making and grand infrastructure rhetoric, Trump often positioned himself as someone who could predict economic opportunities before others. Yet here is a small West African nation, long dismissed in Western calculations, pioneering something entirely unexpected. For Trump and leaders like him, the fact that they did not anticipate such a development reflects a deeper blind spot. The tendency to underestimate Africa. For decades, African nations were treated as passive players in global affairs, their innovations ignored or dismissed. Traoré's Tire Road is a jolt to this perception, forcing recognition that Africa is capable of leading in innovation, not merely following. The impact of the road project will ripple beyond Burkina Faso's borders. Other African nations facing similar infrastructure and waste management challenges may take inspiration from this initiative. Already, regional alliances in the Sahel are strengthening, with nations like Mali and Niger aligning themselves with Burkina Faso's stance on sovereignty and self-determination. The Tire Road project may well become a symbol of this new wave of African solidarity, where resourcefulness replaces dependency and bold experimentation replaces imposed models. There's also a generational aspect to consider. Traoré is one of Africa's youngest leaders, and his style of governance resonates deeply with the continent's youth, who make up the majority of the population. For young Africans disillusioned with corruption, unemployment, and foreign domination, projects like the Tire Road are not just infrastructure. They are metaphors for possibility. They show that leadership can be daring, creative, and rooted in the people's realities rather than external dictates. This generational connection strengthens Traoré's legitimacy and broadens his influence across Africa, far beyond Burkina Faso. Yet the project is not without challenges. The durability of tire-based roads will be tested in the harsh climate of the Sahel, where extreme heat, seasonal rains, and heavy transport demand resilient infrastructure. Technical expertise, research, and adaptation will be essential. Critics will watch closely, waiting for signs of failure. But even if obstacles arise, the broader victory is already secured. Burkina Faso has asserted itself as an innovator, as a nation unafraid of taking risks. In geopolitics, perception matters as much as performance, and Traore has secured that perception. The narrative also intersects with global debates about sustainability. As the world grapples with climate change, nations are under pressure to innovate with green technologies. Africa has often been portrayed as a victim of climate change rather than a contributor to solutions. With this initiative, Burkina Faso flips the script, positioning itself as a pioneer in eco-friendly infrastructure. This challenges Western governments and corporations to rethink their approach to Africa, not as a continent in need of rescue, but as a partner with valuable contributions to global progress. Looking ahead, the success of the tire road could open doors to other innovative projects. Could recycled tires be used in housing construction, energy generation, or other areas of infrastructure? Could Burkina Faso export this model to neighboring countries, creating a new regional industry and sustainable infrastructure? The possibilities are immense, and they place Africa at the cutting edge of environmental innovation. This, in turn, reshapes how the world views Africa, no longer as a recipient of ideas, but as a producer of them. In conclusion, Traoré's decision to build a road using old tires is far more than an infrastructure project. It is a political statement, an environmental solution, an economic innovation, and a cultural affirmation, all rolled into one. It defies stereotypes, challenges dependency, and inspires new ways of thinking. Most importantly, it embodies the essence of leadership, daring to do what others consider impossible. Donald Trump may not have seen it coming, but neither did much of the world, and that is precisely the point. Africa, through leaders like Traoré, is no longer content to follow. It is leading, it is surprising, and it is redefining the future. The road of tires in Burkina Faso is not just a physical path. It is a metaphorical one, leading Africa toward a horizon where innovation and independence walk hand in hand. For a continent long underestimated, this is the beginning of a new journey. And for Burkina Faso, it is proof that even the most unexpected ideas can reshape history when guided by vision, courage, and the will to be free.